So let's get your favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for Bears Steelers. Geoff, who are you captaining for the DFS showdown?
Oh, I think you got to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers side. I mean, there's definitely a couple offensive players there with just a ton of potential against this Bears defense, who is not good anymore. I mean, if you still are walking into this game thinking, the Bears are a top 10 defense, they're not, especially on the back end. They've got two cornerbacks who neither of them rate in the top 90 right now in terms of grading by Pro Football Focus. You've got Chase Claypool at 13.5. I really like targeting him here. He's way less expensive than both Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. Claypool going to have like a 3-inch advantage over both of these Bears corners. He's playing over 90% of the snaps. Yes, he's a little bit boomer bust for DFS. You know, the Steelers could get out to a lead here and run the ball up, but Claypool is also a player who, if he gets 5 targets, 2 of them could go for like 50-yard touchdowns here. I think this is kind of an explosion spot for Claypool. We've seen guys like Mike Evans just come in and lay the smack down on this Bears secondary. I think Claypool breaks out here, and he's a really good value that I want in my captain here.
Yeah, Claypool just 13,500 in the captain spot compared to Najee Harris, who's 18,600. So, Kenny, where are you going?
Yeah, look, I don't think Jeff's necessarily wrong. I think that the Steelers are going to score a lot of points on a weak defense. I think Justin Fields, though, at 15.6K is actually a very interesting captain here because the last time we saw him against a decent San Francisco defense, he was absolutely incredible. He was running the football, he ran for over 100 yards, and I think that rushing upside is something we didn't know we would necessarily see from Justin Fields this season based on the fact that he just didn't run the football that much at Ohio State, rather. I think that, Justin Fields, if he's going to run the football a lot against a Steelers defense that's rushing him from both sides, I think that that's certainly something I want to look at if he's going to be running the football 10, 15 times with a good pass rush. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're 30th in interception rate. They've allowed 6.9 yards per pass, which is not that great. It's just kind of been a middling defense so far this year. And while their pass rush has been good, they haven't intercepted the football a lot. And Justin Fields has the speed to evade the pass rush. So I think that things could break for him. I think he could have a 25 to 30-point game. And I think that's really what you want.
All right, obviously the captain spot 1.5 times the salary, 1.5 times the points. But who else do you need to get in your DFS showdown lineup, Kenny?
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth. That's who I need to get in my lineup. The Steelers tight end, $7,000. There's no Eric Ebron here. I think this is going to be a big tight end game. 7 targets in his last 2 games. The Bears are allowing 7.4 yards per attempt, which is awful. As Geoff alluded to, the secondary is bad. We know the Steelers love to throw the football. We know Ben Roethlisberger loves his tight ends. Freiermuth is a guy that is very talented, has already gained a ton of trust from Roethlisberger. And now with the door open here for 7 to 10 targets again, with what should be a pass-heavy attack for Pittsburgh, I like Freiermuth to score a ton of points. I need him in my lineup.
Yeah, and that win over Cleveland, he was ranking second on the team in targets behind Deontay Johnson. So, Geoff, who are you thinking you need in your DFS showdown lineup?
So, obviously if you're pairing Claypool, I think you come back with, and I like the call on Justin Fields. I mean, I do think that he's a viable captain's candidate tonight, but I just think you come back with Fields and Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is basically at, we're talking about, we're comparing players to stocks. Allen Robinson has just been on the sell button for the last 8 weeks here. I mean, his season high is 65 yards, but this is a player who averaged 74 yards per game the last 2 years with the Bears. Justin Fields starting to figure things out back there. There is going to be a breakout at some point for this player. And again, you've got the Bears coming in, minus 7-point favorites, I believe they're up to now. You should see Justin Fields dropping back, 27, 30 more times in this game. I think this is a potential breakout spot for Allen Robinson. Again, it's sort of been progressing a little bit better with him. You see a couple good connections. It's just the volume necessarily hasn't been there. But I think in this spot, the Bears should be up for it. Justin Fields coming off his best game. I think you pair him and Allen Robinson here because I just don't think people are quite ready to buy in on him yet, which should give you pretty low ownership in the flex.
All right, these are guys you got to pay up for a little bit. So, Geoff, where are you looking for value in this one?
I'm going to do something I don't think I've ever done on this show. I'm going to talk about a kicker. Chris Boswell, others Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, ultimately, when it comes down to it, we've got a game here with a 39.5-point total. You've got Boswell. His home split's much better this year, averaging almost 9 points at home. He's a really, really good kicker in Pittsburgh. He has been his entire career. That's mainly why the Steelers hold on to him. Heinz Field, typically one of the toughest places to kick in the NFL. There's a solid kicker. From judge again, just from the point total, the implied team totals we're getting here, we're probably going to get a scenario where Boswell maybe just kicking some late field goals here. We're not expecting a shootout. So, you look at this for DFS. Well, who's under 5K? Everyone's going to be on the Steelers defense. Some people might take shots with, some of the tight ends here for the Bears, but there's really nobody else here on the Steelers I want to take a shot with except Boswell, who really could be in a spot here, 4 or 5 field goal attempts. So it's a first for everything, and Boswell's my kicker, I guess.
3,800. All right. Kenny, where are you looking for value?
Yeah, look, I've said it a lot, and it's because he's a very smart person and we get along and we think alike, that Geoff is right? There's not a lot of great value options on this slate because when you look at the snap counts for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're very heavy with Najee Harris. They're very heavy with their top 2 receivers, Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. It's really hard to find someone who's actually just going to be on the field to catch the ball or to get the ball thrown to him, right? Or just have it in his hands. And one of those guys is Zach Gentry at $1,800. There is no Eric Ebron, as I mentioned, and Gentry last week played on 61% of the team's snaps. He had 5 targets. If you're looking for someone who's going to be a bargain here, I think that you can trust that Zach Gentry is going to be on the field and therefore should get thrown the football. Again, this is going to be a pass-heavy attack, I think, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least for half of this football game, until they build a lead on the Chicago Bears, because they love to throw the football. And I think Zach Gentry should just find his way into, 4 or 5 targets again because he's going to be on the field. And you also have the added bonus that around the red zone, Ben Roethlisberger does like to target his tight ends as well. We could even see Zach Gentry score a touchdown. So I think that if you're looking for value, you probably got to look at tight ends. And I think Zach Gentry, Jesse James as well, $3,000 in a revenge spot, 54% of snaps last week for Chicago. These are not exciting options, but that's all I got, Jesse. I'm sorry.
They might not be exciting, but they're going to get the job done, Kenny. That's what we like. All right, let's move on over to the DK Sportsbook side of things. How about your favorite prop bet for tonight, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Justin Fields over 229.5 passing and rushing yards. He had over 100 last week, as I said, against San Francisco. This is a Pittsburgh defense that just hasn't really found its way this season, guarding against the pass or the rush. The one thing they have consistently done well over the years is rush the passer, and Justin Fields has exhibited that he can get around a good pass rush with his speed, with his legs. So I think that that'll have him outside of the pocket a lot. I think he'll run, and I think ultimately he should be able to gain enough yards based on, the Steelers secondary just hasn't really lived up to what we thought it was going to be. So I think that he should have some success through the air as well. But I like this prop because you get the added built-in, he's just running for his life. He could still get you the over. So I like this.
Geoff, need a prop bet from you.
First of all, I love that call by Candy. I think Fields' passing prop is good to go over, but I love the combo because there's so many ways he can get you the over there. I'm going to do something I did on Thursday, and this worked out really well. We're going to go to the player parlays under this game. So you click on the game, you go to player parlays on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and you go to Chase Claypool, you go under receiving, the receivers, for the player parlays, you go to Chase Claypool. You can get plus 1,700 on Chase Claypool to go over 125 receiving yards and score 1 touchdown. He's already done this once this season. Twice last year, he went over 100 yards and scored a touchdown. Look, we hit this with Jonathan Taylor at plus 800 on Thursday night. He went over 150 yards and scored a touchdown. It's a very similar situation. You've got a dominant offensive player going against one of the worst secondaries in the league. We're just talking about one long catch and then a couple other catches to pad the receiving stats here. Claypool could absolutely do this. I think we're getting very good odds. Keep checking these player parlays. I love this feature on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I think it's a very good spot to take that plus 1,700 on Chase Claypool.
We love all the features on the DraftKings Sportsbook. All right,
all of them.
All of them. Let's go slate approved pick, though, Geoff. What is your favorite bet for tonight?
All right. You have to attack the over on these player props on the Bears. Kenny mentioned the Justin Fields one. I love that one. I'm going to go take it a step further. Allen Robinson, over 38.5 receiving yards. Are you kidding me? At the start of the year, if you had told me you could get 38.5 yards on an over-under total for Allen Robinson, people would have been legitimately climbing over, stampeding over each other to take the over here. Just take it. This is a player who's averaged 74 yards per game the last 2 years with the Bears. Fields is figuring it out. This is so ridiculously low. Take the over on Allen Robinson's receiving prop tonight.
Kenny, which bet are you absolutely stampeding to get to?
Yeah, I am looking at looking at the game total, over 40 points. We keep talking about how, these Steelers offensive weapons are going to go completely berserk against this terrible Bears secondary. We're talking about how Justin Fields is going to have a good game and how Allen Robinson's going to get all these yards. I think that the over 40 points has to hit if all these things are going to be true about this football game. And I think that they are. I think that the Steelers defense is getting just a little too much credit here. This is a defense I've believed in all season long and will continue to believe in. But looking at the numbers and looking at Justin Fields' momentum here and how he looked last week, it's just impossible to think that this defense doesn't allow like just a couple touchdowns, right? And just 14 points, just 10 points here. I think that spots you enough for the Steelers to go ahead and cover this over for you. So I think this is a spot where I'm targeting a super low total, and I'm going to go over. And I think that the Steelers just throw all night long, and they have success all night long. Justin Fields mixes in a couple scores.